Good afternoon, sir, and thank you so much for your time.
Good afternoon. Thanks for having me too.
Great. Sir, how important or how significant is it for a president to follow up with his promise a visit to the Bawku area? How significant is the visit of the president?
Well, I think it's extremely significant and quite critical. Not only that he is redeeming his manifesto promise or campaign promise, but that he's followed up to go to the ground, symbolizing his seriousness about helping the two sides or all sides of the dispute to come to an amicable settlement. I mean, immediately, what the visit might achieve would be to de-escalate the level of the tension. And the possibility of that lies in the fact that the Kusasi see themselves as aligned to the NDC. So once their government is in power, which is how they present the narrative, they are likely to listen to the president and hold back on all forms of, violence against the Mamprosis. Now, having said that, it's also important that it is President Mahama and the former late President Jonathan Mills who have actually visited Bawku. No other president, at least within the Fourth Republic, as people call it, I think have gone to Bawku. But Bawku alone may not be the center of the conflict. The Mamprosis hold their allegiance to Nalerigo. So it might be helpful, and I'm not sure whether that is part of his itinerary, probably to have gone to Nalerigo first to talk to the Nairi, who is the king of the Mamprosis of that area, and then come down to talk to the Kusasi or the Kusasi chief or Bawku chief, in Bawku. But in whatever way that we look at it, this visit is likely to send positive signals to all the parties that the president is intent on helping to mediate the conflict.
Right. Now, Keno, we know that partisan interferences have contributed to this conflict, leading it to becoming more of a political struggle between mostly the two major political parties. Now, looking at the exploitability of such a conflict, what approach should the nation or the government take going forward, irrespective of this particular visit?
Well, as I have suggested, the historical narrative is that Mamprosis align with the NPP and Kusasis align with the NDC. So for that reason, it will not be advisable for the president to lead in any form of mediation or negotiation. However, being the head of state, the president, the commander-in-chief, this visit sends good signals. And I think the best approach or best practice will be the backbone conflict, to find a mediation group combining traditionalists and other, eminent personalities within the country and within the region to help the mediation. Because by virtue of the history of the conflict, the Mamprosis will continue to see any NDC leader as being a friend of the Kusasis. So after this visit, I would expect that the president would establish or appoint a committee of some sort. And I've cited the Dagbon one, which was resolved amicably using the good offices of the Asantehene and other personalities. But let me emphasize again that if it's not part of his itinerary today, as soon as possible, it might be helpful for him to go to Nalerigo, where the Nigerian...
Actually, that is part of his itinerary today.
Well, then that is fine.
Yes.
Whether he goes to Naregu first before Bawku or Bawku before Naregu, the idea that he is visiting the two centers of power, albeit Nairi is a kingship, but Bawku, where the Bawku Naba resides, who traditionally has been, a Kusashi, I think would also be quite helpful. But again, I've always wondered what the political objectives for the deployment of the military are. So going forward, because the military has become a party to the conflict, in the sense that they have used more of force than conciliation or mediation to try and mitigate the threshold of the violence. So the president will have to review the mandate for the security forces and orientate them more towards peacekeeping than peace enforcement. So the peace enforcement is what has made the military or the security forces a party to the conflict. And so far that has not been helpful. I think upwards of about 30 lives or so have been lost. And any time a life is lost, that serves as a trigger for further escalation.
Right, Colonel, now looking at the proximity of Bawku to a place like Burkina Faso, serving as a trade hub for most of the Sahelian communities or Sahelian countries, how important is it to see the Bawku conflict as part of a transnational violent connections and to deal with the matter once and for all?
Well, I'm not too sure that based on the information that is available publicly, we can conclude that the Bawku conflict is being fueled by the importation of arms and ammunition and, again, combatants from across the border. On the contrary, there is firm information that arms and ammunition have been flowing from the southern part of Ghana, including from Accra to Bawku. So we should be a bit careful before we classify the Bawku conflict as a transnational or cross-border conflict. However, the proximity of the conflict to the instability in the Sahel could also serve as an attraction for either side, or even the tourists up north, to start, if they have not done that already, to influence the dynamics of the conflict. Any aggrieved party in the conflict who feels that the government is not listening to them could seek help from terrorists. And that would be another ball game altogether. So far, it looks like the government or governments for this conflict is not a new one. It was there during CNDC. It was there during former President Kufuor's time, certainly during NDC 2, and then across NPP 2, which is the former President Akufo-Addo's tenure, and currently NDC 3. All the governments successively have helped to contain this conflict. The escalation that we saw recently, including October last year, was the fact that the government then did not pay close attention and allowed the rival chief to be installed in Naregu, which then served as a provocation for the Kusasis, to flex their muscle. And unfortunately, the outgoing government, to my mind, did not, seriously deploy conciliatory, mediatory, or mediation approaches to try and de-escalate the tension. So this president's visit would help to, first of all, de-escalate. Very, very important. To get the side to stop using violence, including firearms, some of which I think you and I know are military-type assault rifles.
Right.
And then closely following that, to exploit, as we chose to say, with the actual mediation effort. Because the military is not going to be able to resolve the conflict. That is not their role, and that shouldn't be their role.
Right.
So the government expected, the former government expected that deploying the military to contain the violence could help solve it. To the contrary, it has always escalated. And as we speak, I think the tensions are high. And I had said a week or so ago that once the NDC government, this current administration that I call NDC 3, takes office, that will be a signal for the Kusasis to say that, excuse my language, Nakan, Yabai Abba, our government has come. So they will be emboldened now to do worse things than they have done before, further provoking the Mampusis. Then, of course, the Mampusis will counter. Then it goes up in that kind of, tit for tat tactics that will be seen.
Right. Now, kind of finally, I know you've mentioned the Dagbon approach, using same similar approach to addressing this Bawku matter, but we've seen several attempts from civil society, NGO, the state, ONEP, and the likes, even leading to the formation of the Bawku Inter-Ethnic Peace Commission. Also, this Bawku Inter-Ethnic Peace Commission still exists, but results have not been as expected. So what form and structure should this mediation take to help bring some finality to this matter?
Well, there's nothing new under the sun. So we might have to resort to the same old practices. But see, despite everything that you said, this conflict is highly politicized. So even if there is a commission, and you've mentioned ONEP, my good friend Bombande, Dr. Emmanuel Bombande and co, the Peace Council, and so on, have all been involved. Now, a small political mistake, even an utterance, like in Parliament, where I think a minister, I'm not sure whether it was a Minister of Interior or Minister of Defense, said that the people who were fighting were criminals. Now, in conflict resolution, you don't put labels on anybody because they have causes that they believe in. So that brings me back to what are the causes of this conflict? First of all, it's history. The history of that area. And the other time I mentioned, at least from 1930, when the white man got there after the defeat of the Ashantis, realized that there was a history behind that. But also about traditional authority who controls Bawku, which is predominantly Kusasi, although sitting in an area that is predominantly Mampusi. So the chiefship, not that the Kusasis are contesting to be the king of the Mampusi, that is a Nairi, but they want their own chiefship in Bawku, which was what the white man did, that the Bawku chief will be called Bawku Naba. You see, so that is one center of sources of the conflict. Then you have the socio-economic. It's about land. It's about trade. Right. It's about livelihoods like farming, and cattle rearing and so on. So when the president
unfortunately, we have lost Colonel. We'll try and rework the lines and bring the Colonel back on the lines to finish off with that. Colonel Festus Aboagye, retired, is a security analyst, and he has been sharing some insights into the Bawku situation and the significance of John Dramani Mahama, His Excellency, the President's visit to the area. Chris, you were on the line telling us about the importance of Bawku in its geographical setting and why there is the utmost need to help bring a lasting solution to this matter. If you can wrap that up for me.
Yes, Nana. So I was just talking about, let me start with even agriculture, because I know the peasant farmers will be celebrating the president's visit, because once this conflict exists, we continue to have what we have in the north, that is a lot of a shortage in the farm produce. You know, we have onion farmers up there, dry season tomato farmers are up there, millets.
Right, Chris, hold on for me. Colonel is back on the line. Colonel, thank you so much for joining us once again. We lost you there along the line. If we can just bring finality to the suggestion on how the form of this mediation should take.
So I was making the point that to support the technical work of the mediation, which ideally should be led by eminent personalities, preferably traditional leaders. And that is why I have used, another analyst have used the example of the Dagbon one led by the Asantehene and I think another king or so. There is also the need to try and address the socio-economic imbalances, the access to land and water, the freedom of movement to trade, not only within Bawku, but between Bawku and Accra and other parts of Ghana. So there is a need for what we call the non-kinetic, that besides the deployment of the military, the government must also invest in other community projects that would help to, if you like, activate the local economy.
Right.
All these projects could combine Mampusis and Kusasis, for instance, if they are farming and so on. Now, once you get that modicum of stability, then the teachers and the nurses who ran away about 2 years ago, and I believe most of them have not returned, will get back. Then the economy, the local economy, will start picking up. As we speak, I can't tell investment the former or US government made in the non-kinetic approaches. You know, the boreholes, good roads, bridges, you know, the schools, and so on and so forth. The chip compounds, anything that can help, you know, the local communities to go about their livelihoods, which includes farming, cattle rearing, and so on. Those must also be the concern of the government. Because the commission or technical commission would not have the resources to address that, albeit that some NGOs with external sources of funding could also assist a bit.
Very well, very well. Thank you so much for your time, sir. We're grateful. Colonel Festus Aboagye, retired, a security analyst there, speaking to us regarding the Bawku conflict and the significance of His Excellency John Dramani Mahama's visit to the area.